we're going to be doing an interview. And if you guys want to talk, that's fine. I can't monitor the chat. It's just too much going on here. So if you have questions, hold it to the end. Christian is extremely generous with his time, so he will answer every question that he possibly can. So you can hold it to the end, but I see people are showing up. So thank you. And, I'm very excited about this. This is going to be fun to start live streaming. I enjoy, and not just live streaming, but live streaming while I'm doing a interview. So you guys actually can feel like you're in an audience. It's like you're on a stage. I'm up on a stage with whoever the guest is, and you guys will be there with me. So this is the beginning of it. We did live streams in the past. I was just talking with Christian. It's been about 5 years since I've done live streams. So thank you, everybody who is showing up. And remember that this can be on the replay. It's going to be up on YouTube. And then, of course, this will become a actual podcast. So again, guys, and I see more people are showing up, and I want to say hi to you all, but I don't have time right now to individually say anything to you. So, all right, let's get busy. All right, so welcome back to the Firearms Nation podcast. This is a live session of the show, and like I said, there will be a replay. So in case you miss it, you'll be able to find out everything I talked about with my guest, Christian Saylor. Seiler. And I know he's going to.
I was just going to say something.
All right, yeah, you can hear that voice in the background. That's Chris in the green room eating some M&Ms. But so yeah, anyway, I'm here with Christian Seiler, and my name gets butchered all the time. People say Eric, it's actually Arik, but that's okay. Seiler, I will never forget it. But anyways, my guest is Christian Seiler. If you don't know who he is the new IPSC World Champion, and we are going to get down and busy and find out more about him. So, Chris, welcome to Firearms Nation podcast, and thank you for coming on this live stream.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. I appreciate it. I think it's been maybe as long as you've taken a break from the live streams when I was back on. So it's been like a couple years.
Well, yeah, I think the last live stream I did probably was around 2019-ish, maybe 2020. Yeah. And I think the last time I talked to you was around the end of 2020. I remember you had changed up your program a bit, and you really were excited, and you wanted to get the information out there. So I had you on. So yeah, that's been a while. So a lot has changed.
A lot has changed. A lot of good stuff going on. Now an IPSC World Champion, which isn't too bad. So yeah, quite a bit has changed. So excited to talk about it, break it down.
And so in these past, I want to say between 2 to 3 years, what have you been doing?
Well, I graduated from the University of Washington with the degree in finance. So that's been really big. I started working full-time at a finance firm in downtown Seattle. I've tacked on a few more USPSA national championships, a few other major matches, and dream finally came true. I was able to shoot the World Shoot. I was able to hold that USA flag and hold the trophy up and won a world championship in Thailand not too long ago, just about a month ago. So those are some of the highlights for sure, but a lot more woven in between those different things.
Well, the fun part about talking to people is that I like to get into the fine parts that are woven in that you were just talking about. So if you don't mind, how old are you now?
So I'm 22. My birthday's in July. So I would love to say I just turned 22, but time flies. So I turned 22 in July.
Okay. So a lot has been accomplished in 22 years. And when did you start shooting?
Started competing, going to matches once every month, probably 13, 14 years old. So it's been a little while.
And I remember, if I'm not mistaken, you were very big in baseball. Is that gone by the wayside?
Not totally, just different outlet for that. So I played all throughout high school, played my freshman year in college. And so what I've transitioned to is softball. And so my sophomore, junior, and senior year of college, I was playing in an intramurals league. And then now that I'm out of school, I play in there's a little a park down the road called Green Lake, and I play in a Green Lake league. It's probably like 10 teams. Some of my high school buddies, some of my college buddies, some of my college buddies' high school buddies group of guys, all like 20-something-year-olds playing softball, and I love doing that in the summer. So baseball is not totally by the wayside. Sometimes I'll go out in the street and loosen up the arm a little bit, or remind myself that I need to get back on the band work when I throw too much. But yeah, softball is a new outlet for baseball for sure.
So let's get right into it, because I know this is what people are tuning in for, or listening to this show for. All right, so you're now an IPSC World Champion.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like to actually go represent the country and travel? Is this the first foreign country you've been to?
I've been to Canada, I've been to Mexico, but first time on really traveling out of the U.S. general region. So yeah, it's the first big major match. I jokingly say that the Pan Am was kind of like an international match, just for the feel of Florida and the feel of all the different competitors being there, and probably having more people from other countries than the U.S. But yeah, this for sure was the first big international match. So yeah, it was a totally different experience for me.
Who went with you to the match?
I'd like to say I took my mom and dad, or they took me, vice versa. But we all went together. My mom, dad, and I all made the trip. We stopped in Japan on the way over, and then went all the way to Thailand. So yeah, the whole crew went.
Awesome. And so you get there, and now there's somewhat of a time difference. Although you're on the west coast of this country, there's still a time difference. How did you
hmm
adjust with that?
I do like the idea of sleeping in the U.S. on a different schedule before you go over there. But I knew that I had some days over there practicing and getting, walking around, getting acclimated to the climate and what's going on there. So I had a few days before the match, which I think is really important to get used to the time zone there. But yeah, the first couple of days there, I was, 4 or 5 o'clock. It was time for bedtime, and I had to stay up until 9, 10 o'clock, and then go to bed. And then at 4 o'clock, my body would want to, I'd spring out of bed like, hey, let's do this. We're in Thailand. And then I have to remind myself, we got to get on the sleep schedule and go back to bed. So yeah, it was a little rough at first, but just about by game time, I was feeling pretty good and almost fully adjusted.
Now, who you shot in open? Who was on the open team with you?
So it was me, Chris Tilley, Bill Drummond, and Casey Eusebio.
And you've shot with them before?
I have. Yeah, those are all guys that regularly shoot in the super squad. So I've competed with them a lot. Originally, it was also JJ and Shannon Smith. JJ went and shot on the Carry Optics team. Shannon Smith decided to give a spot to someone else. But yeah, I shoot with those guys very consistently. I probably shoot with Chris Tilley the most at different regional matches. Casey usually just at the nationals. Bill at some regionals, and the super squad as of late too.
Okay, so going into this match, and I don't think anything can compare. National championships, IPSC nationals, all that. Nothing can really compare
Yeah.
to this. What were your expectations going into this match?
Yeah, and I can just first off want to say I completely agree with that. I think two parts. One, this match is the largest match, just physically. It's a world championship. It's the highest level of match, and it also feels like the highest level of match. I don't think anyone was at this match saying that there was any better match than this one. The way it was run, the whole World Shoot opening ceremony, closing ceremony, the match, and everything. So it was a very well run match. It was also the biggest one that I've ever been to. Also, keep in mind, going into this match, just was the biggest match of my lifetime. A lot of pressure going into this match. I waited 5 years for it. I altered my college schedule a little bit to be able to shoot this world shoot. Didn't happen. Gets pushed back another year. Move stuff around, life-wise, college-wise, all that sort of stuff. So a lot of expectations on this match. I've been building up for this not just 3 years, which is a long time, but 5 years. And my expectations were pretty simple. I mean, there was no other option going there than winning for me. And so that was my mindset going into it, that, it's first place or nothing. And I didn't really have a second option. Not winning the match was not an option for me. And I think that's what helped me go into it and be confident that no matter what happens, at the end, you see yourself at the top of the podium. So, yeah, that was the expectations for the match. I knew it was going to be a lot of pressure. I knew to be the best competitors in the world. That's what the World Championship is. But I was ready, and I was really confident in the training and sacrifices and all the energy and effort I put into it leading up. So, every night I went to bed, I slept real well knowing that I was ready for this moment. And everything that I've been training for the past 5 years were leading to this moment. And that is a lot of pressure, but I, grounded myself well and took one step at a time, one trigger pull at a time. And it's very easy.
Are you familiar with Lanny Basham?
I am a little bit. I've never actually read the book. I've heard of mentioned in different podcasts, and I've seen different quotes and stuff. Yeah, I think it's with winning in mind.
With
The
winning in
book.
mind, yes. And for those that don't know, he was a air rifle shooter, and he made it to the Olympics and took the silver medal, and because he choked for the gold, and he should have won the gold, but he didn't. So he did all this research, and instead of seeing like a sports psychologist, he spoke to the gold medalists in all the different divisions because he was a medalist. They opened up to him and figured out, what they were thinking. So something you said there is very prominent in his book, which was the people who went to the Olympics and were eventually winning the gold medal all thought to themselves, "Yet that's my medal, right? I'm here for that medal. I know it's my medal." And that's all they were talking. And some people would even consider that being cocky. But without you reading that book, you already had that mindset. Was that a mindset that you had developed over the years, or was that something that you specifically started to apply as you went to this match?
I think that's pretty much always been my mindset. I think that words are really powerful and words matter, and the actions you take especially do. And so when everyone ever says, "Oh, like good luck, I hope you win," of course, very gracious at that. But in my head, it's like that is the only option. There's no hope. There's no if. There's no anything like that. It's a matter of win. So now that's just something I developed, and you really have to earn the right to do that. Some people maybe will be like, okay, this is my medal and feel that way, but they don't have the backing behind it. And so I challenge myself every time they go to the range. Do I actually deserve this? And building in your mind, deep in your heart and your mind, that you know that you deserve this is incredibly important. And I wouldn't say historically I've never always felt that way. I really have. At different moments in my career, maybe I show up to an area match not 100% where I know I could be, whereas the nationals or world championship I would. And I know in my heart I maybe don't deserve it as much. I know I might be able to get away with it, but I made sure that for this match especially, I knew that in my heart that I deserved it. And I did that by putting in the work, putting the time, humbling myself every single practice, expanding what my capabilities are, and failing. And that's part of it. But yeah, this is a mindset that's been developed over years and years, and something I continuously work on. I'm never perfect, and I never will be. And I'm always chasing a better me each and every practice session. But this is a mindset that I gained by deserving it and by doing the work, and by building up what I thought and what I think is the world championship, number one in the world. So it's just humbling yourself in every single practice session and getting better. And then eventually I got to a point where I just said, yeah, this is the only option, and this is my mindset moving forward. So I don't think you can just wake up one morning and say, I deserve this, I'm going to win, there's no other option. It doesn't really work like that. I feel like it's a feeling that grows stronger and stronger. And the more work you put in, that's kind of how that mindset has developed over time for me.
You kept saying deserve.
Hmm.
When you mean deserve, are you talking about deserved that it's because you think that you're ready to get it, and that you're been training and all this stuff, or deserve that means that, because sometimes people hear deserve, it's like,
Hmm.
you know maybe it should go to somebody who's more senior or whatever, but I can still deserve it because I've been winning and whatnot, because it's an interesting word to use, deserve.
Yeah, and I think I just owed it to myself, and I think I wouldn't be true to myself with all the work and sacrifice that I've made. I deserve it to myself that I put in the work, and I know that I've done what I need to be able to do to win this match. So, yeah, it's all about what I've done in my work and improving what I want to do for myself, and it's all an internal thing for me. And I know that I've done the homework that I need to do to be my best version. And at the end of the day, if someone else has done their homework and their best version is better than my best version, then hey, I can hang my cleats up at the end of the day and say, hey, I did everything possible. And so that's what I did leading up to this match, knowing that I did everything I could possibly do, and that I earned it for myself, and reached the peak, that not the peak, but the best with what I got and what I can do to do it. So it's not a thing of that I deserve it more than another person, because every single person in that super squad I was shooting with, and many squads, and most of the competitors there, put in so much time and effort, and they probably feel like they deserve it too. But at the end of the day, I just knew that myself and my training, what I'd done what I needed to do personally. So yeah, there's a lot of deserving competitors that shoot, maybe put more time in, maybe put more effort, whatnot, but it's all an internal thing for me, and knowing that that I actually do deserve it, and going into that match knowing that I put in all the work. Because if I didn't put in any work and I can just go up and show up and win it, I really wouldn't feel like I deserve that win. But I put in the work and the time for that. So what I was kind of explaining there with previous matches, potentially maybe showing up to an area match unprepared. Maybe I honestly don't deserve that, and I've done a really good job of never doing that, or very rarely. But we can always be honest with ourselves and say, did I do everything in my power? And with what I got, the time I got, the resources I got, I really put a lot into this and maxed out all those different buckets. So that's kind of what I mean by that.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. When you were growing up, were you? I don't want to say like a winner, but were you constantly at the top of your class? Were you constantly, on a winning team? Were you, the best hitter in baseball? I mean, where did you develop this skill set and this mindset to be a champion?
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of it has come through failures. I've never been the biggest guy, never been the strongest guy, and I darn sure think I've never been the most talented guy at a lot of different things that I've tried. So I've never felt like a lot of things come easy to me, and it's always been through my hard work and going the extra mile. That's where I feel like I've always excelled, whether that be in school, in baseball, and now shooting. I mean, I was never the biggest guy in baseball, never the strongest guy, never had the prettiest swing. Although I do think my swing got pretty by the end of high school. I never was just like gifted with all that sort of thing. So everything that I earned, I really felt like I was really scrappy and always felt like I was the underdog, and I always felt like I had something to prove. So I think that's kind of what built in that mindset. I think in school, I was blessed to have two really smart parents, but I still felt like I had to work my butt off to achieve the grades that I wanted to, achieve the test scores that I wanted to. So I always felt like I was the underdog, and I was thinking about this yesterday. I never think I'll lose that underdog mentality, and I think it's it's troublesome to lose the underdog mentality. I always think that there's someone better than me. I always think there's someone putting in more work. If I'm sitting on the couch, I'm always thinking that, hey, someone's out there shooting, someone's out there studying, someone's out there putting in work. So, you can always be better. So I think that has developed through baseball. Always having something to prove, always feeling like I was the underdog in baseball and school. I've had a lot of failures, don't get me wrong, but I've had a lot of wins in baseball and tournaments and leagues and championships. I was valedictorian in my high school, those sort of things. So yeah, I had some big wins, but trust me, there's been a lot of failures, and I feel like that's where I've learned the most is from my failures. I learned the most from my shooting losses. I learned the most from striking out. I learned the most from letting home runs get hit off me when I was pitching. I learned the most from the C's and D's that maybe my mom thinks I didn't get, but maybe I did. Who knows, right? So I've learned from a lot of failures, but yeah, I've been very fortunate and very blessed to have a lot of wins in there for sure.
So I don't want to jump around too much, but I like this line of conversation. I find it fascinating. You got into competitive shooting when you first started competing in shooting. How did it go for you?
I was a little guy. I was a little 13-year-old chubby kid that my mom, my little 5 foot something mom, brought into a little local range at Bellevue Gun Club. So I was definitely not good off the start by any means. Was just trying to learn, and luckily I was surrounded by a lot of friends. Now that are friends and people that I met that are really knew a lot about shooting sports, so we're happy to pass along that knowledge. I think that's why I kind of have a special place in my heart for juniors, because I was at a lot of people helping me and a lot of people supporting me at a very young age. So so I think I was very fortunate in that regard.
Do you remember the first match that you ever won?
I'm trying to think. I'd have to look back a little bit. I remember there was a charity match called the Movember match, and I beat my kind of mentor at the time, one of my two mentors, Zach Campbell. I remember it was kind of like a passing the torch type thing. So I thought that was pretty cool. But I think Movember was one of them, and I won an IDPA state match over Zach too. I think those are the two that I was remembering, like, okay, here we go. That's like the first big win. But, I don't really count any class wins. I don't count any junior wins, anything like that. It's kind of the big boy wins I think have meant the most to me. I think my first area win was pretty special. I think my first nationals was the most special. I think my first world shoot was the most special.
Of course, you'll never forget your first, right?
Yeah.
So you won your first match. After you won that first match, did you find that it was easier to win subsequent matches, or was it always a struggle to keep winning matches all the way up to those area matches and up to those national matches?
I think I go back and forth in this a little bit. I think I see both sides of the argument. I remember some people saying after all my first nationals, okay, he's won one, but his next one's going to be harder. And I thought my second one was easier than my first, right? But then I thought my third was harder than my second, right? So I think it's two part. I think I've done a really good job, or I tried to do a really good job of picturing what's going to happen. I picture myself at the top of the podium, but that wasn't the main thing for me. It was picture myself every single day, how I conducted myself, how I carried myself at the range, represented myself on the range every single day of the competition, how I was attacking the stages, how I was working with different teammates, how I was, analyzing the courses. So I really visualized that well at the World Shoot. I went to bed every single night with the plan for the next day. So I was able to visualize really well. So I think it was easier for me to do something that I've never done before, right? After you do something, you can visualize it a little bit better, which I think helps you do it again. And you know what that feeling's like, and you know what it takes. You'll never really truly know what it takes until you've done it. I think that's one of the parts there. But I think once you've done it, you know stuff. And sometimes you can feel like you know too much, and you know where the pressure is going to come, where the different failure points could come, where the risks are, and that could negatively affect your performance. So I see both sides of it. So I try to take the different learning lessons from both and apply it to when I'm trying to do new stuff or trying to do the same thing again.
Are you a goals guy? Do you write out your goals and put them on the refrigerator and stuff like that, or is it more just you just wing it as you go along?
Everything's very methodical, very calculated. I mean, I'm a big planning guy. I have my next year totally planned out, and I have everything figured out as far as, dates of matches, of concerts, of family events, all sorts of different things, right? But as far as goals go, I have an Excel tab that I basically organize my entire life in, and there's a tab that says goals there, and I have, life goals. I have shooting goals, and if you look at the top of those shooting goals there, part are skill based, part are match based, and it's always been the world championship at the top there. So I've actually yet to go in that Excel and update that since the World Shoot. They're made probably, I don't know, a year or two before the World Shoot. I've been updating them ever since. But yeah, I do need to pick a new goal after winning this World Shoot. There's easy stuff that comes to mind, like win a nationals, a different division, or win another World Shoot. Of course, that's going to come. But really looking at that and skill development wise, life development wise, I have that stuff sort of figured out. But match wise, I think that will be interesting. But I think the coolest thing is I have a picture of it somewhere. I have a little notebook. It says MGM on the front from the MGM Junior Camp that Mike and Rhonda Gibson ran for so long. And all I need is someone to run it, and I will be an instructor there in a heartbeat. As just a total side note, I will be the first instructor to sign up and clear my weekend for that. But with that little notebook, it says MGM on the front, and Max Michel gave a speech, and I have a lot of notes from it and really, really cool memories of Max giving that speech. I look up to Max in a lot of ways, but I have down there, it's win a local match, which I don't think I'd done at that point. Win a local match, win a regional or local, sectional, state, area, nationals, and win a World Shoot. And so it's pretty cool that over the years I've been able to cross those off with a lot of work. But where we go from there is interesting. But I think it's good to write them down. But if you find it to be a little cheesy, you better have those really ingrained in your head, because goals take action, and they take action every single day. It's the small steps. It's not the big days where you say, oh, I'm going to accomplish this goal. It's a small step. And unless you have those burned into your mind or written down, I think you can potentially lose sight of them.
Obviously people can write down win a area match or win a national championship.
Yeah.
So in your Excel spreadsheet, could you just share, those are very big goals. Could you share a more actionable goal that you wrote before to people who are watching or listening?
Yep. I think at one point I had make Grandmaster. And so I was breaking down what I actually needed to do that. And so I think classifiers, I have a big opinion about classifiers, but if you're just looking at a classifier, for example, what are the elements that you need to make sure you perfect? One, you need to make sure you have a fast draw. You need to have a fast reload. So that time I was drawing in 1.5 seconds or 1.3. So I was like, okay, I need to get that sub 1. I need to get my sub second reloads. Okay. Those are 2 action items that you pretty much need to do to get GMs on classifiers. Then it says, okay, I need to be able to hit everything. I need to be able to, hit the top head boxes on stuff on classifiers. I need to be able to hit steel. So for that, I need to increase my physical fundamentals. That's working on my grip. There's a lot of different things on that. So I think you can just say get better at grip and have an action plan on how you want to practice that. I need to speed up my transitions. Okay, well, what are you going to do for that? I need to practice then, two times a week. I need to dry fire it, and I need to go through the motions of having my eyes move. I need to then have my gun meet what I'm looking at, all that sort of stuff. So you got to break it down. I think most of that is in my head, but that I have the goal and I know what I need to do to get there for the most part, or people have helped me lay the groundwork for that. So some of that is kind of down the road a little bit. But if you want to do something like make GM, you need to pick what you need to do. I think the only one that ever really broken down like that was winning an area match. I think Area 3, 2017 or 2018. My dad and I went there, and Lesgar, Casey, Max Michelle, I think someone else all beat me. I was looking at the seconds, and I was like, okay, how many seconds is this really on every stage? I was like, oh, it's only 2 seconds. So I was breaking down all the different skills and things I needed to work on to get there. And I slowly but surely got closer and closer to doing that. So maybe as I've gone along, they weren't like individual, like, oh, my draw needs to get faster. But that's all part of the practice process and building that out. I think a little bit separate to my goals, but they're very closely linked at the same time.
I think people are always fascinated by younger people who achieve so much at a young age, because they think, all right, so if I did all these things, it didn't work out for me, and then you have figured out all these little steps. I mean, that is very detailed in your goals, in breaking it down and breaking it down and breaking it down, because everything that you do at that point is actionable. We're at the time of the year where people say, I want to lose weight, and or I want to lose 20 pounds. Well, those are high goals. All right. So instead you need to be thinking about, like, what does a person who loses 20 pounds do every day? Not go for the dessert, not, miss a gym, not go, all these things that they need to do. So the same thing with what you're doing, but again, you're doing it at such a young age, and it's fascinating to a lot of people. And of course, that's why I brought you on to share that type of stuff. All right, let's go back to the World Shoot. So you're in Thailand, and was it hot?
It was, it was pretty hot. I mean, people can maybe correct me on this, but it felt like about 100 degrees there and very humid. So you'd step out of the hotel and you're like, oh my gosh, we're in the jungle. Like we are hot and sweaty instantly. So the mindset was, hey, control your 3 feet, however long my arm reaches. If I can't touch it, I can't fix it, I can't do anything about it now, then it's a non-factor. So that was definitely one of the largest non-factors of the match. Is just it is what it is, and it is how it's going to be.
And it's very different than Washington.
Very different than Washington. Right now, it's we're in January. It's like 30, 40 degrees. So very different for sure. And it's always dry. It's always dry heat. It's not very humid.
Right. So tell me about your first stage of the World Shoot. What was that like?
Yeah, so it was probably one of the worst stages you could start on in the World Shoot for a couple reasons. One is it had a really wobbly bridge, and if you don't think your legs or hands are going to shake, you're pretty wrong. I mean, I probably was one of the more composed people on our squad. I very rarely show any emotions that are negative whatsoever, or nervous or whatever like that. But you look at people around, and everyone's hands are shaking. Everyone's getting real quiet. I mean, as soon as that briefing starts, or about 5 minutes before, everything gets real quiet and really tense. So I made sure to get there plenty early. I introduced myself to all the different people on the squad, so all acquainted, and then I was getting down to business. So I did a really good job the night before of going through the stages and having all the plans set. But of course, you can never prepare as much as when it's like 2 minutes before you go, and everyone's got different ideas. And I did a pretty good job of sticking with my original game plan. I made one minor adjustment on what target I started on. Besides that, I stuck to the plan. I did the homework. I visualized this stage basically the entire night before, so I was ready to go. But as we get out there, a lot of nervous energy I can feel around me, but I just ground myself, and a few things I always think to myself. I'm here. I'm staying the present right now. Stay confident, and I know what I need to do. So that has kept going back to, this is just shooting. This is just targets. I think that's what helped me be so calm, is I knew that I actually have done this before. This moment is a little bit different, but I've done this before. I've shot stages like this. I've been on a wobbly bridge before. I shot targets 20, 30 yards further. I shot smaller steel. I shot faster moving targets. So I found a lot of calm in that, and we're calling good practice sessions and all the training. I think it was easy. I didn't need to think about the hard practices I've done. I just knew that I was ready to go in that moment. I go fist bump a few people before I walk up to the line, and I also saw this in the shoot off a little bit too that helped calm me. But everyone's hands were shaking 10 times more than mine, so I was giving a fist bump. Right, mine was maybe a little bit of a rock, and theirs were like this coming up. So I'm like, okay, we're good. We're feeling good, ready to go. I like this, and it just made me feel really hungry in the moment. This pressure really was making me feel very dialed, very in the moment, which I think is good. And I never let that pressure just kind of like freak me out or anything. It's just like, hey, let's use this. This is like a jolt of adrenaline almost a little bit. This could be used as a superpower if used properly, because when else do you get this pressure to amp you up in all the right ways? If you let that pressure affect you in the wrong ways, then you're going to suffer, right? But I use that to let me focus up, get all the details, run the programs. And then by that time, that RO said, "Are you ready? Stand by." I just pressed play on the program and ran. So I was getting some weird impulses on the stage from the wobbly bridge, and then also my gun fairly close to the wall. So I shot a few extras on the first original lean and the last lean, but a 15 split makeup on a 10-yard target is really not going to kill you, but a miss on the first stage would be a pretty demoralizing thing. So a few extra shots there. I had all of my hits that I shot, and I think that was a big confidence thing. I could have left that stage and said, "Oh wow, well you had a few makeups, it's not very good." But then I said, "Oh wait, even under the max pressure, the max fog you could potentially have in this entire match, in my opinion, I think you performed actually pretty well with the shots that you took. Now just be a little bit more confident with what you got, build on this, and use this as a stepping stone rather than a potential detractor." And I thought it was actually a pretty bad run, but it really wasn't. It was like, I want to say like 90% or something like that. I have to go back and look, maybe 85 at the lowest. But yeah, there's a lot of pressure, but I loved it. I look back, it sounds so corny to say. I actually clipped it out of my original YouTube video, but I just felt so dialed in that moment. I was so ready for this. I've been waiting so long for this. I said that, if you're not really into IPSC, you may not really think this is like, oh, this is like cool. Like I'm like ready to go, but it sounds cheesy to me, and I'm probably the harshest critic on myself by far. But the RO says, "Are you ready? Stand by." And I nod, and I just like in my head, like, born, like I'm ready for this. Like I could not be more ready. I'm going to do this. There's no other option than just doing this. So I said born, and I'm like, oh, it sounds so nerdy, so cheesy looking back on it, but it's just like, just how I felt, just like true emotion of how I felt in that moment. So yeah, it was a stage I'll remember forever for sure.
Well, you have to feel confident with the team, because these are all people who you competed against. And I got to say something, USA shooting, our practical shooters are really good. I know there's some good people around the world, but I think we produce a lot of consistent top people. And now they're all on
top
your
10
team.
In the world.
Yes. And they're all on your team now. So you've got that behind you. But who were you worried about when you were shooting this match?
Yeah, I mean, there are amazing competitors all around the world. There's the top athletes, but I don't think I was ever really worried about anyone. And that's as humble as I can possibly say it. I'm the most worried about myself. I can never be thinking about what other competitors are doing, because for the most part, I really don't have any control over their performance. It's a very individual sport. As much as some people say maybe this is kind of like boxing, he jabs, I do this. It's really not. I feel like it's a very individualized sport, and the more time you spend into the boxing and counter stuff, I think it can detract from your performance negatively unless you have complete control. And you can never really have that, right? You can never control what other people are doing. So for me, I was most worried about myself. I knew that this is well within my wheelhouse. I just knew exactly what I needed to do on each and every stage and exactly what performance I was looking for. So I was just worried about myself. I think there's many top competitors. I think the most prominent top competitor that I was the most worried about was Jorge Ballesteros, and he's an amazing competitor. The 2017 world champion. And as you shake your head, I know what you're talking about. Unfortunately, we lost Jorge, and this is why I want to do this interview this week rather than last week. Last week was really fresh. I mean, Jorge was one of my shooting heroes, and I was just so honored to meet him and his family, his sister, his mom and dad. So it was a little fresh last week. It definitely hit me a lot more than I would have imagined. But he was an amazing competitor, and I'll always remember him for sure.
Now we talked about your well, let me just say something too. You're wearing your jersey.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's have the money shot. Go ahead and show everybody the trophy.
Oh.
I know it's right by you.
Right there. There we go.
Yes, that's beautiful. Let's get on the
Not
full
bad.
screen. Look at that. All right. So, okay, we talked about your first stage. When did you know that you won, or did you know at the end? Because I know a lot of times going into some of these
So,
matches,
mhm.
you can tally up the score, and then like if you just do everything right for the next two stages, you're going to win no matter what because it's impossible. Was it like that for you, or was it a nail biter?
No, I really don't think it was. I mean, the first day, and we can walk through some of this stuff, whatever maybe people would like or you'd like. But on the first day, I had a very uncharacteristic malfunction with one of my magazines. So I lost like 20 something points there, 25 points. And then I had a miss, just the smallest tiny amount into the hardcover. So I had two misses. So I lost, at least 50 points on the first day. And I was only down by like 10 or 15. I have to go back and the numbers are getting a little more foggy now. But I have all this written down. I was only down by like 10 or 15 points. And I just in my head was like, wow, on one of the worst days, not the one of the worst days, but in my mind, it was a complete failure of a day. On one of the worst days of my shooting on 6 stages, I'm still only down 10, 15 points at the world championship. Like, I totally got this. And at the most down it was in the match, the most points back, probably maybe the lowest feeling you could maybe say, I felt the most confident. Not just by the results, but how I was feeling. I was feeling very comfortable and very confident on the range, more so, and I was building that throughout the match. So from there, I knew I was just completely locked in. So I could say that I knew I won the match after the first day, even when I was losing. That's how I felt in my mind. But I think after day two, I tacked on. I came back from those 15 points. I was up 10-15, and then I add another 10 the next day. So I was winning. I won day 2, 3, and 4, and then day 5 I'm up by 40 points. I know that I shoot the alpha. I don't make a big mistake. I win this match. So you could say I also thought maybe I won it then, but I know it's never over until it's over. I know that because I've snuck out some wins in the at the last moment before, and I think being down is something that I've learned a lot from, and I've known that I'm more capable than I actually am, or give myself credit for internally. So I knew that if I was down 40 points, I'd still have a chance at beating me. So I knew it was not over until the last shot is fired, the last bullet was striking the alpha, that last score was approved, and everything was done. So no, it really wasn't a nail biter for me. Yes, did Edsel Gino have just a phenomenal last day of shooting? I mean, like, phenomenal last day of shooting? Yes, he did. Did I bring my best, or what I could potentially do on the last day? Absolutely not. But I also know that I didn't need that, right? So I wasn't going to risk it. So it's all a smart play in how you want to play the game, and the tactical decisions that you make. But no, it really wasn't a nail biter in the end. I think it's 15 points, which is not a lot, but it's not a little margin by any means. But yeah, it could have been 40, couldn't 50, whatever. But no, it was all just tactical plays there in the end. But I knew kind of like with the stage left, I'm like, oh, I can shoot 70% on this, which is walking through the stage. But it's never really over until it's over. So I took that mentality up until the last round. So yeah, that's how the experience went for me.
And what did it feel like finding out that you won?
Not as much as I thought at first. At the moment, you're kind of like, whoa, okay. This is a little bit of a new feeling, and you never really kind of believe it until it's like really like, okay, this is 100% done. This is complete. This scores are in, everything like that. But in the moment, I was kind of like, yeah, tomorrow's gonna move on. I'm gonna wake up. It's gonna be another day. But I think it really took some time and reflection. And my life is, I don't want to say crazy, but very busy. I have a lot of stuff going on, and I'm in a million different places doing a lot of different things. So it really wasn't until I was vacationing after the match, or for 2 nights or something like that. That's how I had to get back. I have stuff to do, life to live. But it wasn't until like that time frame where I was like, oh wow, I really just did that. I really am the best shooter in the world, and it just was like dawning on me. I was like, wow, you know. And it also makes you realize that the grind and the work and the shooting and the practice is the part that you probably enjoy the most. I mean, winning is just the byproduct of the hard work and the energy and effort and all the rounds I put down range and practice and sacrifice that I've made. My mom, my dad, my family, my sponsors, my friends have all made. So I think looking back, I think that's where I drew the most satisfaction from. But yeah, the next day moves on, and yeah, you have that. I have the trophy right here. I'll always be the 2022 IPSC World Champion. But yeah, I think I really look back and reflect on all the good times leading up to this. I think that's been the best part. Not saying that this match wasn't amazing, the whole experience wasn't amazing. It's just putting things into perspective, I think. And yeah, tomorrow goes on, but I can, at the end of the day, pat myself on the back a little bit, which I rarely do, and was kind of able to do at the end of the match.
Did you happen to catch my interview with Eric Raffel that I did a couple weeks ago?
I did.
Okay, so in that interview, he was talking about, because for those that don't know Eric Raffel, he's probably the most winning world champion that the world has. He's won it 9 times, and no one has even come close, and no one beats him. He's impossible to beat. I remember one time he lost at a pro-am, which I really don't think they shoot anymore, but I was there watching it. It was pretty spectacular. To Bob Vogel, to shout out to Bob Vogel. But yeah, Eric is a phenomenal person, and he mentioned that somebody's going to come and beat him one day, and it's going to be someone young. And I mentioned your name, and he said probably. How did that make you feel?
I definitely smiled at my phone. I was listening to a podcast where I was cooking in the kitchen, and I was like, wow, that's a really, really nice thing of him to say. And I have a lot of respect for Eric, and I think he's a really, really cool guy, really accomplished legend in our sport for sure. So yeah, it made me feel really good, and yeah, it was a very nice compliment, and I'm very complimentary of Eric back. I think very, very highly of Eric. Did I wish and was expecting to shoot open against him at the World Shoot? Absolutely. Was I disappointed? Absolutely. But that is what it is. And I showed up at the open division ready for anyone, including Eric, including whoever wanted to shoot open against me. So that's how I feel about all that sort of stuff. So, I have my match schedule for 2023 put on the calendar. I have my match schedule for 2022. I posted back in 2021 in December. So if someone wants to shoot open against me, I welcome the challenge. I love sharing the range with the world's best. I love competition. I respect all my competitors, and I have my calendar up there. So if anyone wants to shoot open against me, I always invite the challenge and respect all my competitors and wish them nothing but the best.
So I guess, yeah, so you're sticking with open then.
I mean, who knows what's in the future? I think for me, it's very difficult to jump around, not from a skill basis. It's just how much I get to practice and the frequency of when I practice. So I know that I can show up for a match, be 100% ready for the open gun. For me to really feel comfortable with the carry optics gun, I got to shoot. I mean, I've only shot 2 matches with that gun ever in my life. So I'd prefer to shoot an open division. But I realize that if I want to shoot against different people at different time frames, not everyone is going to want to challenge me in the open division, and I understand that. So I'm getting ready with all the guns. I'm getting set up for all the different divisions: the production division, the limited division, carry optics division. Production, carry optics, limited. I have setups for and want to consistently rotate throughout those guns. So I'm ready to kind of like deploy to any match at one point and have a little training camp and go. But for me, open is where I've always shot. I think it's the most challenging division. I think the margins are the tightest. I think you need to be the most technical, the most fast, the most accurate in this division. So that's why I love the open division. Are there other stuff going on in the divisions? Absolutely, but that's where I'll be for a while for sure. But I do have. At this point, I realize that not everyone is going to come shoot against me in open, and that is fine. So maybe if I want to, for personal reasons or challenges or excitement to go shoot against other competitors, then it's going to have to be me to go make that move. And I just realized I've been chasing people down for so long, and it's their turn to maybe do the same in the open division. So it is what it is. I can say that all day, but I still want to go shoot against everybody. So I'll probably still go chase them down. But especially after the World Shoot, I said, hey, I'll be in open. You know where to find me. But I just love the competition aspect. There's a lot of great competitors, and I love shooting with the best competition in the world. I love challenging myself, and that's what it all comes down to is it's challenging myself and learning and growing as a shooter, and I think that's done with the best competition.
Now, do you have a girlfriend?
No, not currently.
Oh, I'm sorry, JJ, because he said that he'll go back to open once you have a girlfriend. So I guess stick to carry optics.
Well, He said that, and I was joking about that and a few other comments. He's like, "Oh, as soon as he gets a girlfriend, you start losing." And he said that when I was like 18, and then I had different girlfriends that in those timelines, and it's like, nothing's changed, JJ. But no, I was really happy. On a side note, I was really happy that JJ won the Karyoptics World Championship. I know that we were both rooting for each other, and I would have loved to have him on the open team and compete against each other, compete with each other. But I was really happy for him as well.
Well, maybe Eric will switch to open just to put you to the test. I know I would love to see that. So Eric, if you're watching in 3 years, that's what we got to be doing. In that interview too, he talked a lot about, and it kind of blew a lot of people's mind, how much ammo he was shooting. I think someone did the math. It was like 75,000 rounds before the World Shoot in preparation.
Yeah.
Did you do something similar like that, or is your protocol different?
No. So just stepping back a little bit, my camera's frozen, so can't see me, but I think I still look good, so it's fine.
You look great.
I'm just kidding, but thank you. But what I was saying was, yeah, maybe Eric will shoot open against me, but I was at the Nationals in the World Shoot, and he chose to shoot production. So I don't know if that will ever happen. To be quite honest with you, but I know he has told me. He says, "Oh, you can shoot open against me when I'm a senior." Maybe he doesn't want to shoot against me now. He didn't choose to shoot open at the World Shoot. That was his personal choice. So it is what it is. I was really excited about it. But as far as him shooting a bunch of rounds, I thought he quoted 100,000 rounds in a normal year and 200,000 in the World Shoot year. I believe that's what historically I've heard, and I think I heard on your podcast as well. And he's a full-time shooter. He wakes up every day. He trains people. He runs his academy, and he shoots and practices himself. My full-time job is, the past however long I can remember, has been being a student. I've always been a full-time student, and shooting has always been a side thing for me. As crazy that sounds, that the current IPSC World Champion is a full-time student. It's crazy, but it's true. It's never been my full-time job. I have a full-time job in finance now. The past year and a half I graduated a year early. That's why. But in college and now working full-time, shooting's always been a side thing. It's always been something I've been extremely passionate about. But, I've always done a pretty good job of putting school first and putting my career and long-term goals, outside of shooting first. And so, I'd be lucky to shoot 30,000 rounds in a year. And I maybe have done that. And I have a little, every practice session, I add, 100, 200, however many rounds I shoot to a little notebook so I can track, when I change parts on different guns and whatnot. So I have all of that recorded. But I probably shot 20 to 30,000 rounds this year, definitely not over 30, in preparation for the World Championship. So by no means am I a full-time shooter. This is not my full-time job, but I was luckily still able to, I wouldn't say luckily, but I was still able to make it happen and win the World Championship, as this being a very part-time job for me. And I think that just goes into the training and group and friends and family and sponsors that I have behind me.
So you've won the World Shoot. You're still sponsored by Infinity?
No, I am not.
Okay, so that's my next question. Obviously, you're now a world champion. They got to be coming out of the woodwork trying to sign you up to be an ambassador for whatever gear, gun, clothing that they have. How much has that changed for you?
I'll be lying to say it hasn't changed for me. I've been really fortunate to have a lot of different companies be in discussions with me in the past, 2 months or maybe a month after World Championship. But that stuff was happening after, I moved away from Infinity maybe a year or 2 years ago. I had a handful of companies, small manufacturers, medium manufacturers to the largest manufacturers, all wanting me to shoot for their team, for their guns, be a brand ambassador for their stuff. And I was very, very honored by all those different offers. But for me, my long-term career is outside of shooting, and I'm really focused on my career, my certifications, my licenses, and that growth. So that's what I'm mostly focused on. So if a sponsorship is going to negatively affect that with the restrictions on what I can do or the obligations, then I'm just unable and unfortunately not able to do it at that time. And anything that I sign up for or anything that I do, I want to be able to put 100% effort in. And I know what I'm capable of as a brand ambassador, as a representative for the sport, as a competitor. And so I just wouldn't feel true with a lot of the different contract offers I've received to fully fulfill them. So, I'm willing to work with different companies and whatnot, and I've had a lot of great experiences with my sponsors. I'm really fortunate to have the ones I've had for quite some time now. But I'm really only working with companies that I'm using the best products possible, and my values align with a lot of their values as well. So I think that's really important, and I've really made sure that's at the top of my list whenever I consider a partnership with any company, is how the values align and if it's a relationship that's really going to work. And I put a lot of effort and energy into the relationships that I've had, and I'm really grateful for the ones that I do have.
Well, that was a very good lawyer-esque non-answer answer. I'm impressed someone so young could come up with that. And folks who are actually watching this podcast, yes, at this point he is freezing up every so often. It's not your computer. It's it's the beauty of the internet, but we hear you fine. So
Perfect.
that's the important part. And I just want to say to people who are on the live stream, I said at the beginning that we were going to do the interview and then we'll get to questions. And I think if his video is going to stay frozen up, because that's the beauty of live shows. If it stays frozen up, we will start answering those questions in a second. So real quick, you've won and you're working. How come you don't want to go full time in the shooting sports? You still want to have the job? It's not that lucrative for you yet?
Oh, it definitely is lucrative, and I've had to, because of my full time job and other obligations that I have, just life stuff going on. I've had to turn down a lot of different, lucrative. If that's a word you want to use, like very lucrative opportunities with training different groups, with training different people and in the U.S. and foreign countries, turning down sponsorships worth a lot of money, a lot of different training opportunities, and just me hosting my own classes, right? But I'm really focused on the long-term growth of my career, and I feel like it's best for me and my family and what I want to do. But yeah, I mean, I hope to have I will, in a little bit of time, pass some tests, do some different things. I'll have a little more time to teach. I'm really passionate about that, and I've been really fortunate to learn a lot through my trainings, through learning from other people. So I love passing that along. So hopefully I can do more of that. But no, just what I want to do. And I know the lifestyle of a pro shooter. I'm very, I know what the lifestyle is, and I kind of lived like a month of like being a pro shooter, traveling around and everything. And I really like being home with my family and friends, and so that's more fitting for my lifestyle. It's gonna be fun to travel for the next 5-10 years, but eventually I want to have a family and very family oriented. And I think the career that I'm choosing now is a lot more oriented towards that. I can still, does not being a pro shooter stifle some of my abilities? Absolutely. I'm not able to train as much. I'm not able to spend as much time behind the gun. I'm not living and breathing shooting like I could potentially be, and I have had in the past in like summer breaks and stuff like that. But it is what it is, and I'm very fortunate to have a very, very nice opportunity in finance, and I work with a really good team. So I like doing that a lot. I'm passionate about other areas outside of shooting as well. So I think I'm able to do the best of both worlds right now.
Okay. And I had one more question, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to look through some of the questions that are here because
Yeah.
they might answer it. And if you guys have any more questions, feel free to submit them now. So I'm going to go back and
Yeah.
look at some of them.
I can also log in and out. I mean, maybe that's not advised, or turn on and off my webcam, but we could look into that.
Well, you can, I think you can, I might get rid of you and then you can
Yes.
come back in. Well, here's the thing. There's always the danger. If I get rid of you, you can't get back in. And then I'm making up answers. And I don't think people are tuning in to hear me make up answers for you. I'd have to get you on the phone or something. But
I'll pause my camera and turn it back on. That's what I'll do.
okay, you can try that as a. All right, I'm going to. Well, he just disappeared. So I saw a question for me here from Stan. Let's see.
Did that work?
That worked. Good.
So
Stan,
you can now see me again.
Yeah, okay, good. All right. So Stan asked if he couldn't get my email to work. He sent an email about the website. So guys, the website, firearmsnation.com, is being redone. It should be updated by this week. Last year it got hacked and then things got broken and then I just got too busy to deal with it. But since I started, 2023, everything's coming back together. I revamped the website, make it more modern, and all that stuff will come together. So thank you, Stan, for sending me an email, and I will take care of it. So getting back to questions for you, Chris. John Kelly is asking, without giving away too much, what mental preparation do you cycle through before a competition?
Well, I can look at this little thing I have. I have a shadow box. I have a shadow box that's setting up, which kind of shows my jersey and whatnot. And I have a little sticker. And hopefully my video still works. It still works, right?
It does, yeah.
I have this little "Make It Happen" sticker, and this is the one that had my shooting bag on the outside where my little name card goes. And I had a few reminders of like physical stuff: hands, X2, which means my pro grip, and then also baby powder. Camera, lens, and dry fire, which means lens, making sure your scope lens is fine, making sure your glasses lens are fine. I had my glasses fog up the morning of 2020 nationals, and I just totally bombed a stage. So I'm always very cognizant of that. But yeah, I have a reminder on my phone that has stayed at 4 o'clock because I was waking up that for the AM sessions and I was moving around. But it says ground, which means stay grounded, which means stay in your legs, because I feel like a lot of times you can get your legs a little bit wobbly. So I have a thing for that to make sure I stay grounded, make sure I'm very in touch with the earth below my feet. I'm gripping in hard. The next one is confidence / aggression. And that's not like stupid confidence. It's not stupid aggression. It's not go crazy on the stage, but it's just kind of realizing what I've done in the past in my training and how I prepare for this moment. And through going through that process, I feel very confident. The next one is vision, which is how I look at the center of the targets, how I plan and prep. And that's kind of a me thing. And then I also have grip, which that's pretty burned in, so I'm not really thinking about that. But just a reminder, don't be afraid to squeeze and where you squeeze and what hand you squeeze with. And then the last one is open the eyes. And that's just like be here, be present, we're ready to go. And it's also open the eyes, like get your eyes working. So I kind of go through that. And I feel like sometimes when I have a mistake on a stage, maybe I forget one of those elements, not like grip, because I don't forget that, but some of the more like confidence or the grounding and sometimes the eye stuff too. So those are some of the things I've prep written down there too. It's very small, but just kind of things to think about. And some also, I have a list of details on the stage if I ever just kind of get lost, just to go back to that. But I rarely looked at that. I really just looked at this individual sheet.
That's very cool. Let's see. We got Brennan says you'd like to know how to shoot the most alphas in a given match. What do you recommend people do to shoot the most alphas?
That is like, I don't even know what a question to like compare that to, but it's not a stupid question by any means. I'm just trying to think here. There's a lot of different elements that go into it. I mean, there's the element of is my sights or my dot even aligned in the alpha? That's the first part you need to do. And then the second part you need to do is you need to hold the gun in a way, stand in a way, pull the trigger in a way that's going to be conducive to actually having that bullet meet what your sights are looking at. Not just by, aim, my sights are there, and then the bullet leaving the barrel. There can potentially be a disconnect there. So the first step is making sure your sights are there, which is a whole process. What you do with your eyes, where you're looking, make sure you stop on time. A lot of visual stuff goes into where you're looking and the technique you're using. And then the last component is I'm looking there. Now is my gun there? And then since my gun is there, can I keep it there by the time the bullet leaves the barrel? So it's a very large process. It's not just as simple as you shoot alphas. Sometimes I think it's that, but a lot of times I think it's much harder. So depends how we're doing.
And there's another question here from Josh saying, am I wearing JJ swag? And yes, this is JJ's shirt that he designed for, let's see some of his design here, that he designed for Howitzer Clothing. I'll mention them. It's a really nice shirt. And every one of these shirts that is sold, money goes towards law enforcement, which was really nice that JJ set up. So very proud to wear it. And thank you, JJ and Howitzer Clothing. It's been a long talking session with you guys. Let's see if there's any more question. All right, we got one from Stan. Christian, what is your go-to dry fire drills?
I don't really have go-to drills because I run through pretty much the same thing every single practice. And if I have a weak point in my live fire training, I could potentially target something in my dry fire practice. If I'm not stopping the gun in the right manner, that's what I put my focus on. But I focus on the different technical elements, my physical fundamentals, and then my mental fundamentals. So it's a build up. There's not just drawing, it's not just reloading. It's what you're doing with your eyes, how you're scaling, how you're moving the gun, how you're gripping the gun. So a lot of different elements go into it. So it's not just specific drills. Do I have drills that support what I'm doing? Absolutely. But I think it's more of the technique and breaking it down and where you put your focus and the techniques you deploy. So it's not really as drill focused. It's more of a feeling and yeah, there's drills behind it, but I'm working towards a certain feeling with the gun that I know produces the results on targets that I want. So I run through a lot of different drills. I think Ben Steger, Wansik, who else has good dry fire stuff? There's a lot of good dry fire material online to go through, and a lot of different ways to get good dry fire drills. That's going to help. I think as you're going through the ranks, you can work through a lot of drills, and at a certain point, you need to know what goals you're trying to achieve and structure your drills, but also what you're doing, which I guess can be drills towards the result that you're looking for.
While we wait to see if there's any more questions, and then we'll call it a wrap. But what is your ratio to dry fire to live fire?
So when I was training for the World Championship, the month before I left, I was practicing almost every day or every other day. Every single day I had the gun in my hands. My hands have never been so chewed up, so calloused. I've never really had I've had my hands bleed when I shoot like a long steel challenge match or like lead up to the US Steel Nationals, but this was like 2 months of having my hands totally cracked, bleeding every single practice session. And so I was dry firing every single day. I had the gun in my hands. The days that my hands were like gushing blood where it was like just stupid to keep dry firing, or when I just like realistically needed to give my hands a little bit of a break. On days like that, I would just not put the holster on and just grab the grip and do that in a little more gentle dry fire. But ideally, if I'm gonna go shoot a Saturday practice, I have to dry fire Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Otherwise, you're not getting the most out of your practice session. I think so I'm practicing tomorrow for the second time since the World Shoot, or third time since the World Shoot, and I haven't dry fired at all. So tonight when I'm getting through some work, I'm just gonna put my belt on. So as I'm doing work, I need to take a break, just need to maybe go downstairs to the kitchen, make something. I'm going to put my belt on and dry fire a little bit, get back in tune with a gun. So if I'm being 100% honest with myself, I probably shouldn't practice tomorrow, but I'm going to because I want to, and also meeting one of my buddies. But yeah, you should practice 2-3 times before you're really practicing, and I find quite a bit of value in it. If I could shoot every day, I absolutely would, but I would totally start and end the day with both dry fire as a warm-up, and then also kind of a cool down and make sure you're getting back to the fundamentals and doing things right.
And before I get to these last couple questions, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in. But if you can, if you haven't already left a review on Apple Podcast, even though you're watching the video, still, Apple Podcast is the number one podcast app player, whatever you want to call it, hoster of, I don't even know if that's a word, of podcasts. So please leave a review, and you can tell me who you want me to interview next, or if you have any other questions, or you just like the show. And likewise, subscribe to this channel so you're getting the content as it comes out. And then of course, we'll follow Christian everywhere. But let me get back to some of these questions, and then we'll let Christian go. Someone
I had one more thing I wanted to say before we add just a few more questions. I know I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I just wanted to say we recently lost Jorge Ballesteros, the 2017 IPSC World Champion, and I just wanted to just say a few things. One, shooting with him was a total privilege and honor. I mean, I meet a lot of my heroes growing up, shooting against all different people rising through the ranks of the U.S. I shot against all my, if you want to call them heroes. And a lot of people have been amazing. A lot of people, maybe not as much, but Jorge Ballesteros was far above what I ever thought he was going to be meeting him. Just a super nice, very caring guy, an amazing competitor, not just by his achievements, which he's won the world championship. He's a world champion and will always be. He's won a bunch of matches, but also the competitor he is. He will always help the competitors. He wants other people to do their best, and he only wants to beat you when everyone's doing their best. He's the type of guy that if you have a malfunction, he would be like, "Oh, that's such a bummer." Like, actually feel for you and wish it didn't happen. Whereas some people, maybe would want that, right? So he's an amazing competitor by his achievements and the way that he's always shot the matches. So that's something that's really important to say. He's a hero that lived up and exceeded my expectations. So I just want everyone to know that Jorge Ballesteros was a world champion, an amazing guy, a father, a husband, a son. I met his mom, his dad, his sister. I didn't meet his wife or kids, but just a really amazing human being. And so he'll definitely be missed. And I unfortunately only had the chance to shoot one match against him, only share, a few really long, conversations with him. But each one will be remembered for sure. And when he passed me his jersey and I passed him mine, we shared a few words, not a few words, a good 10, 15 minute long conversation that I'll remember the rest of my life. And I really wish there was more with him, but just an amazing guy, an amazing competitor, and a world champion. So I just wanted to say that. And just a great guy. But yep.
Yeah, that was very nice. So this will be the last question. And if you guys still have questions, you can leave a comment down below. And if Christian's nice enough, he'll come back and revisit his page every so often and see if there's a comment.
You have to ping me.
Tag him.
Because I won't.
I'll tag him. Yeah, for sure. And then you can also follow him. He's Christian Seiler Official, which I'll link in the show notes on Instagram, which, that's what these kids are into these days.
The links and everything. Yeah, I will say one more thing on the videos and what I'm doing. So my Instagram is Christian Seiler Official. My YouTube, the same. You just look up Christian Seiler, IPSC or USPSA, it will come up. I have my full entire World Championship video. Every single stage is in there. I think it's probably one of the first, if not the first, that shows every single stage of the World Championship. The bad, the good, the ugly, all that sort of stuff. So I have the full match video. I also am slowly releasing a vlog. They're all done. I released 3 of the 4 parts. Takes you through my preparation, some of my training sessions, the behind the scenes of a World Championship. A World Championship win. It's the first of its kind. It's very cool. You see the behind the scenes, the travel, the training, the preparation, the day-to-day type stuff. I think it's a really cool video. And then lastly, I also have a Vimeo breakdown where I break down each and every stage from the World Championship, also the Nationals while we're at it. But I break down every single stage, talking through some of my preparation, how I attack each stage, how I walk through the different tips and tricks on the stage, how you break it down, how you analyze it. So I think there's a lot of value in all of those videos. So, you can check those out. Would love to have you.
Absolutely. And the last question here is from Joshua again. How do you know when you're ready to shoot a stage? Is there a process?
There's absolutely a process. You need to know that stage like the back of your hand. And when I say need, yeah, can you still shoot it? Can you still do well? Absolutely. But the best performances that I've ever had follow a process. And some of the best stages I ever had, I could design this stage right now in a bay at my home and make it exactly identical. You need to have every single thing planned out. You need to be able to close your eyes and think about what each sight picture is going to look like, what each target is going to look like with that sight picture on it, what every feeling is going to feel like, where each step goes. The whole entire process, you need to be able to play that movie in your mind before you shoot it. You also need to have the ability that if it doesn't go to plan like the movie, you have backup plans. You know exactly what you need to do, what round count you're at, where the different reload points are at, where you can save time if you need to pull sort of audible on some of these stages. You know the stage like the back of your hand. So it's a lot of planning. It's a lot of typing in the code of all the different elements on the stage and rehearsing it and practicing it. So there is definitely a procedure that you must follow. And I think the top shooters in the world all follow it. I think all of us have our own little tricks and think we know one more thing than the next, but it's a process. It's always evolving. It's always getting better, more detailed, and always refining the process. But there definitely is one, and you must have that same repeatable process if you want to have repeatable results.
I think that's a good way to sum this interview together. Christian, you did an amazing job at the World Shoot, and we're very happy that you came on this show. So I'm going to thank you now.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And something else, guys, if we were talking about Eric Raffel, and I'm going to put up here Eric's interview, so you can watch that as soon as you're done with this, and you can hear everything that he was talking about his win. And with that, I'll say good night.